Thank you for joining us for this month's National Economic Outlook, written by Local Market Monitors founder Ingo Windsor. Ingo is a graduate of MIT and Boston University, and he's not your typical economist. He has a knack for presenting complex facts in an easily understandable way. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Ingo.
Thank you very much, Julie. Every month, we look at the latest economic data to see what they can tell us about real estate markets, where they are now, and where they may be headed. To make better investments, when you have a better idea of the economic forces that affect supply and demand. This month, we'll look first at the national economy, which isn't much different from last month, and then at some real estate markets in Florida that may signal the start of a broader home price correction across the country. Let's start with jobs, our best indicator of how the overall economy is doing. This chart shows the percent increase in jobs each month compared to the same month of the previous year. After a surge of rehiring to replace jobs lost during the pandemic, employment is growing at a slower and slower pace, just 1% in the past year. Why are jobs so important? Because the US is a consumer economy. It needs a growing number of consumers, which means it constantly needs more people and more jobs. From this perspective, policies that eliminate jobs and discourage immigration seem counterproductive. Let's look at the situations in the different sectors of the economy to see where we can expect more jobs in the future. The construction industry seems to be at a turning point in a sharp downward trend since the start of the year. In home construction, contractors like electricians, plumbers, and carpenters are being laid off. Manufacturing continues to shrink despite government efforts. If tariffs do end up making a difference, the effects won't appear for a long time. The finance sector is creating jobs, but at a low 1% rate. And the retail sector isn't creating any new ones at all. After a surge of rehiring following the pandemic, restaurants are back to creating jobs at the usual 1% rate. And now we get to the three largest parts of the economy. Business services is usually a marker of actual business activity, but it has been losing jobs for the past 2 years. Healthcare is the one sector of the economy that has produced a lot of new jobs in recent years, but there is clearly a slowing trend. One reason is a dramatic decline in hiring for home healthcare. This may be because these jobs pay very little, and many of them are filled by immigrants, legal or otherwise, whose hiring is being squeezed by new government policies. The government sector, which normally grows no more than 1% a year, seems to be back around that level. That's mainly because government jobs lost during the pandemic have been refilled, but also because of the recent axing of jobs at the federal level. Let's have a quick look at two outside forces that affect the US economy, the cost of energy and the cost of borrowing. This chart shows the cost of energy as crude oil in dollars per barrel. It's high, and the green bar on the right shows that future markets expect it to remain high. And interest rates, seen here as mortgage rates, remain high even though current inflation in the US is down around 2%. Both of these situations are bad for the economy and will depress demand for real estate. All of this leads to home prices, shown here as the change in price every quarter compared to the same quarter of the previous year. After the surge in 2021 and 22, there has so far not been a correction. But we'll now see that changes in Florida suggest strongly that there will be lower prices in many markets during the next year. Florida is a bellwether real estate market because of its large number of retirees who age out at a steady rate and therefore create homes for sale at a steady rate. The people who inherit these homes are much like bankers with foreclosures. They just want to get rid of them, so they're more willing than other sellers to cut the price in order to do so. Here we see how much home prices increased in Florida, shown as percent change in the first quarter of each year compared to the same quarter of the previous year. There's the huge spike in 2021 and 22, then the gradual slowing, and finally an increase of 0 in the first quarter of this year, when prices in the rest of the country were still up 5%. Let's look more closely at some specific markets. In the blue column, we see how much prices increased in these markets at the height of the surge, and in the red column, what happened with prices in the first quarter of this year. In markets with relatively few retirees like Miami and Orlando, prices still increased a bit this year, but in those with more retirees like Cape Coral, Punta Gorda, and Northport, where prices had surged the most, home prices have begun to fall. This may mean nothing, just random price changes, but it could be, and I think it is, the beginning of the correction that's been stalled up till now, showing up first in the most heavily overpriced and most vulnerable markets. That's it. In this time of uncertainty, it's important for bankers and investors to stay on top of local economic and real estate developments. Local Market Monitor provides the data and analysis they need, with local market reports and investors' meta-analysis. Thanks very much for following along. This is our National Economic Outlook. I'm Ingo Windsor.